All right, we're kicking. All right. So, how did the assignment go?
Good.
How many people did not get it working? Okay, a third of you. How many people spent more than 10 hours on it? You spent 12 hours on it.
No. I don't know, something is wrong with my computer. Sometimes it won't, sometimes.
Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of different solutions to this today. We'll finish going down the path of what we were doing in class first. So I think there does exist a solution along those lines. But then we're going to do some interesting solutions that are some examples of working within the matrix. Okay? So, who solved the problem? Shut up! Who solved the problem down the same path we were going at in class?
What was that, the 4?
We had the timer and counting down, okay? And what did you do?
I had the 4 game factorial seconds or whatever. And then I added another timer within that, saying every 1 second, and then the calculation.
Okay? So, this guy says to go for a certain period of time. That's how long this should go. But in order to get these to fire over and over and over again, we needed to put a second timer in here. Okay? So we put a timer in here that says to do something every 1 second. Okay? Doing something every 1 second will force these things to occur. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to do something every 1 second for how long? For game.factorial number of seconds. And we're going to count down. Oh, wrong scene. It should have been updating. Did we have... We might have to redo those attribute dealy things in here. So we're going to change our answer to answer times self.I. We had this issue one other time. I think we need to create these attributes again.
Yeah.
So we're going to change our games factorial to be whatever our games factorial currently is. Times our current answer is I, correct? Then we'll also decrement I. So I is going to equal whatever it used to equal, minus 1.
Was it I or answer?
Well, we're decrementing I. We're updating answer up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I already did the answer one. So I minus 1. Okay? And what are we showing? We're displaying the text for answer up here. All right? So our timer says... do something for some number of seconds. What number of seconds? Factorial number of seconds. And let me just quickly ensure that factorial is set to something not 0. Okay, it's set at 4. So this should do something for 4 seconds. Okay, we're going to do something for 4 seconds. I'm actually turn run to completion off. Do something for 4 seconds. Within that, every 1 second, we're going to do something. What are we going to do? We're going to set our games factorial variable to be equal to whatever it's currently equal to times self.I. Okay? Now, I started off at, actually, we currently have it set wrong. If the factorial is starting at 4, we need to have our I starting at 3. Right? It should be 4 times 3 times 2, not 4 times 4 times 3 times 2. Does that make sense? So we need to start this off at minus 1 here. Okay? And then we're actually going to do something for game factorial -1 number of times. Okay, and we can tweak these after we see it run. Within this, we're going to do something every 1 second. What are we going to do in that 1 second? We're going to change our game's factorial to whatever it currently is times I. Then we're going to make I 1 smaller than it used to be. I think in order to get it to run, I need to be on.
You didn't set answer to anything.
I didn't?
No.
Are you lying?
No. That's why I was
Are you
wondering.
sure you're not lying?
Oh, you have self-data.
Oh, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why I was solving this differently. Well, I think my solution is fine as long as I print out factorial here instead of answer.
Let's take a look. Game.
Oh, I mean, yeah. So I actually solved it a little funny. That's why our timer was off, or our attribute was off before. So I didn't even use answer. I just did all the math inside of factorial. So I took factorial, which started as 4, and then multiply it by 3, then 2, then 1. But we might actually be multiplying it by a 0 here. We'll see. Okay. So there's one solution to it, but
Oh, I was going to say, never mind. I mean, to lead into the next one, though, I wanted to say, doesn't that only limit you to doing 4?
well, no, because I can change factorial to whatever I want. I can start, if I want to do this for the factorial of 5, I just come in here to factorial, change it to 5.
That should be 20.
That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one way we could have solved it. But that's clearly not the cool way. Does anybody come up with an interesting, cool way to solve it? We'll see if it's the same cool way that I want to show you. It doesn't have to be that cool. It can just be different.
Put a rule inside of the timer.
You put a rule.
Inside of the timer, and then put the change attributes inside of that rule.
So which timer?
Here, I'll show you.
Okay. So you hit a timer that said do something every 1 second.
Yep. First, I changed the factorial output to factorial input.
Okay, so that's essentially answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then every 1 second, it goes through the rule, figures out if game factorial input is greater than 1.
Okay.
And
So you use a single timer.
yeah, single timer.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's just got all the calculations in there.
Got it. So in this case, he went ahead and he displayed. Well, I don't know.
Okay.
We're good.
Good.
He went ahead and he displayed answer. Whatever answer currently is, that's what our guy's displaying. He set his I equal to whatever factorial was to begin with. He did not use this global time. He didn't use to do something for 4 seconds thingy. So we got rid of that. So he had a timer that did something every 1 second. What are we doing every 1 second? We're asking a question. Rule. All right, what question are we asking? We're asking if a certain attribute, what attribute, our game's factorial attribute is greater than 1. If it's greater than 1, we're going to, let's drag this up here, we're going to change our answer to be whatever our answer currently is. And what do we start answer off at? 0. We need to start that off at 1. So we're going to start our answer off at whatever, we're going to set our answer to whatever it used to be. Times game.factorial.
I did the factorial -1 in there rather than doing it up top.
Okay, well, that's fine. This will work. This will ultimately do the same thing.
It's a game.
Right
function.
there.
This?
Up, left.
Oh. All right. So, but we don't want to set game factorial equal to that. We want, all right, let me start over. We're going to set our answer equal to whatever the answer is currently equal to. So that is our own answer times our game's factorial. Then we're going to change our game's factorial to be one smaller than it used to be. And we don't actually use I. All right. So this guy's going to keep firing every 1 second. So it's still running in the background. It's still going. But inside here, we're going to ask a question. We're going to ask, is our factorial greater than 1? If it's not, take whatever our answer currently is. I'm sorry, if it is greater than 1. If it's currently greater than 1, so it'll go before, then 3, then 2. When it gets to 1, it'll stop. Why waste our time multiplying by 1, right? So as long as it's greater than 1, we're going to take our answer and set it equal to whatever it's currently equal to times the current value of factorial. So the first time through in our current example, it would be, I think, 5. Right? Don't have it set at 5 right now. So it'll set it equal to 5. Then we're going to change our factorial to be 1 smaller than it used to be. So it'll go from 5 down to 4. So the next time through, 1 second later, we'll ask the question, is 4 greater than 1? It is. Multiply answer, which is currently 5, times 4. Set 4 to 3. Spin back up, blah, blah, blah. So we don't even need an I in that case. And we display answer. Oh. Continually showing you what not to do in the scene. Okay? Now, an important thing to note here, though, is that timer is still firing in the background. Right now, every 1 second, it's asking a question. We hope that, and evidence seems to indicate this is true, that GameSalad is not actually asking that question. The rule is not firing because that attribute has not changed. But the timer, there is still a thread of execution associated with that timer. So this is taking up system resources in the background. Okay? Because we did not end the timer. So the other solution where we had a timer and time inside the timer, we had the outside timer saying, everything that's in here only exists for 5 seconds. And then inside, it does its thing, gets its answer, and then that's all destroyed because the timer has run out of runway. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
I actually had a solution to that lag problem. I figured it out afterwards. I just put in the otherwise, so once it's not equal, or once it's not greater than 0, I just had to pause the game.
Okay, we hadn't talked about pausing yet, but that's fine. So let me just do that real quick. Might as well introduce pausing. So I'll go into answer. He went down to the otherwise, and there is a pause behavior.
The only downfall I was running into with that is it disappears after it pauses.
Okay, does it really? Okay, so it allows you to choose what scene to go to when you pause the game. That way, if you want to have a pause screen scene or something like that. So we're going to leave it on the factorial scene. The problem with pause game in general, for this, I mean, in this case, it's fine. So we'll run this real quick. You'll see it'll work. And then you're telling me this guy disappears?
Yeah, the
Okay.
number disappears in the middle.
Okay, so game now is paused. We saw the answer was 120. So the timer is no longer running because the game is paused. The downside to this, which isn't a downside in this current example, is imagine having these timers in a bigger game situation. Well, we don't want to pause the game because there might be other crap going on in our scene that's part of the video game, right? Okay, so sort of pulls off what we wanted to pull off here, but not necessarily something you'd want to. Don't view pausing the game as a way of stopping a timer because it actually stops all timers. Okay, that makes sense? But certainly this is another valid solution. All right. Anybody have something more interesting? What about something that does not use a timer? a happy goat. I asked him, is this a
Pygmy goat / horse.
Yeah, pygmy goat / horse. I guess I didn't see. I viewed the smile as kind of a horse snout. I don't know. I'm kind of messed up. It's fine. Just roll with that. Okay, so what I want to do here is I actually want to solve this problem with no timers.
Go for it, Rock.
So it's like a magic trick, right? Anybody have any suggestions?
Use the click.
I can use the what?
Click.
We could use the click. But just click over and over again. What you're going to want to do is just keep clicking until this thing stops updating. As soon as it stops giving you new numbers, you got your answer. We can certainly do that. We're not going to do that.
If the rule checks every time that that attribute changes, then we could just use the rule, have the rule change the attribute, then starting the rule.
Okay, yeah, you're going down the right path. So we know the rule fires every single time the attribute changes, but we still need something to change the attribute. Otherwise, that rule will not fire, right? So he's off to a good start here. We have proven that that rule will fire, that a rule fires, if the attribute it's checking changes, right? So we need something, some magical source that's not a timer to change an attribute. What do you think?
Rather than change the attributes, constrain them.
Just what?
Constrain the attributes rather than change them.
Okay. So you mean not do this in a rule?
No, inside the rule.
Well, but the rule still won't fire if the attribute hasn't changed. So I mean, you can constrain it to a fixed target. It won't actually be changing.
Wouldn't you, if you constrained it outside the rule, then it would change inside the rule, so then it would change it outside the rule, which then would.
If you could change the attribute from outside the rule, the rule should fire. So if we change the number from 4 to 3, that should force that rule to fire the next cycle through. That's what we need to figure out how to do. How can we change that attribute externally without a timer? I'm asking you to think outside of the box, but inside of the matrix. Well, you could do it with one click. You could make every click update that timer. So fine. Why don't we do it that way? Maybe that'll get you down the right path. Oh, you're saying have the
one click to change the attribute, then the attribute would get the rule going.
Yeah, right. So we'll go ahead and solve it that way. But then the next follow-up question is, I want to do this without us touching the keyboard. Okay, but let's solve it this way. This should get us down the right path. All right, so we're going to have a rule inside of our answer. So we're going to create a rule. We're still going to always show answer here. The rule is going to say, we received the event touch released. So click and release, right? All right. So we received that event. And what are we going to do because of that event? We're going to change an attribute. The attribute we're going to change is our answer. We're going to set that equal to our current answer, and we'll move this inside of another rule here in a second. We're going to set this to our current answer times our games factorial. And under what conditions are we going to do this? We're going to create another rule. Well, here, let me do another attribute here, if you will allow me. Change another attribute. We need to make our factorial become 1 smaller than it used to be. So games factorial is equal to our games factorial minus 1. Okay, so every single time we click and release, we're going to update these variables. So let me just leave it at that for right now. So it's currently at 1, 5, 20, 60, 120, back to 0 because we kept subtracting from factorial. Factorial became 0, and now we're multiplying 0 by -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. Go ahead.
Would you say do that until factorial equals 1?
Yeah, we'll put a rule. We'll wrap that inside part in a rule that says only do this crap if factorial is greater than 1. Okay, so that'll give us our complete solution. So we're going to add a rule in here. The rule is going to say, as long as our game's factorial is greater than 1, do this crap. Okay? So this rule will fire every single time we click, but we'll only change attributes as long as factorial is greater than 1. Okay?
Why didn't we have to worry about 0 with the timers?
Because we stopped our timer, or the first version of our timer,
Right.
died off when we hit 1, because we did it for so many seconds.
Right.
The second version of our timer was wrapped in a rule that said only do this if it's greater than. So the timer was still firing,
All right.
but we weren't actually changing attributes in there because we asked the same question. Okay, but now that question's getting asked every single time. We're that timer, that every 1 second timer. We're that guy right now. We're asking the question, but it's not updating because the value is not greater than 1. Okay, so there's a third solution. This would have been acceptable. Now we need a solution that does not involve timers, and also we're not allowed to touch the keyboard after we hit the play button. Go ahead.
How to change attribute outside of the rule that immediately changes the attribute of answer to factorial.
Okay, so now we're going to change the attribute outside the rule, but who's going to change the attribute?
As soon as the scene starts, it'll change the attribute from change answer to whatever factorial is on its own.
Okay.
It won't be inside a rule. It'll just be as soon as the scene starts, it'll change
Okay.
the attribute, which will fire off the rule.
Right, it'll fire it off once.
Yes, but then that will set the rule cycle every time that
Okay.
attribute changes, it'll start the rule.
So you want to do this. You want to say when this thing first starts, we're going to do a change attribute. You want to change attribute answer to whatever factorial currently is.
Yes.
Okay. Let's just get rid of all that. Then we're going to have a rule. And the rule is going to ask if factorial is greater than 1, then what are we going to do? We're going to change an attribute. What attribute? We're going to change answer to be equal to factorial minus 1.
To answer.
Answer times factorial minus 1. That way we're not multiplying 4 times 4 or 5 times 5. We're doing 5 times 4 the first time. Okay? And since we're going greater than 1, we should be safe. The last time we'll multiply it by 1.
What's the answer starting off at then?
Answer starts off at factorial, right up here.
Okay.
That's outside of the rule. This is what he wants to do to get the ball rolling. Okay.
Need to set the factorial subtract.
Yep. So then we need to do a second change attribute. Where we take our game's factorial and subtract 1 from it. Okay. So it's his belief that by setting answer equal to something outside of here to get the ball rolling, that will cause this to fire the first time, which will then get the ball rolling on this. Setting answer equal to answer times game factorial minus 1, and then factorial equals factorial minus 1. Why did setting answer out here make a difference? Let's run it real quick. This rule will fire one time. On its own, it'll fire one time. The rule is asking the question involving factorial. Inside of that rule, we're changing factorial. But that's all part of the same execution of that rule. In order for this rule to fire again, factorial needs to be changed external to that after this is done.
So you said, if you said like a factorial or like I equal to game factorial, and then you set I up.
Well, here's actually an interesting, I want to do a little experiment here. I'm going to create a timer. What I want to do is I'm going to change factorial to be whatever it's currently equal to. I want to see if that gets treated as a change, just for our future knowledge. Okay? Does changing an attribute to its current value, is that noticed as a change, or does it catch our deception? Okay? Any guesses on what it's going to do? I think it'll notice it as a change. So I'm going to say every 1 second, I'm going to change an attribute. I'm going to change our factorial at the game level equal to whatever it's currently equal to. That's it. Literally a waste of time. Okay? So outside of my rule, I am every 1 second slapping my factorial attribute. Okay? And we want to know if that will force our rule to fire. Because our rule fires off of factorial. Okay? I think it will fire. But I'm basing that off of nothing more than a guess. Well, it is more than a guess. I'm thinking that the people who wrote Game Salad, the functionality they wrote in to see if a attribute has changed will likely not look at the value it was changed to. It will just look at, was it manipulated? No? It noticed it wasn't changed. That rule only fired one time. So they are, well, well, let's see if we can still fake it. I'm going to change it to 1 greater than it used to be. And then I'm going to change it to 1 minus what it used to be. I'm going to change it twice. Having the full circle actually be not changing it at all. Oh. Okay.
Smarter than we thought.
Yep. Well, actually, that's some additional evidence for us that unless we're dealing with events, those rules don't seem to update. Well, no, It did. I was going to say well, no, it's still with events. It's still with events because we clicked to make a rule update. It seems like a rule will not update on an attribute unless it's in a timer. It's not updating on attributes by itself because we clearly changed that value, right? Just one last little test to make sure it's not so smart that it recognized we changed it right back. This will break our answer. Okay, our final answer is going to be wrong here. Okay, but we are literally changing factorial to be something new, and we'll see if we can convince this rule to fire another time.
Well, the answer would be endless now, wouldn't it?
That we don't care as long as we see it change. We're just looking for some evidence that how rules work. So it seems like a rule outside of a timer will only fire a second time if it's related to an event, not related to an attribute changing. Okay, so another thing to throw in our toolbox. All right, so that doesn't work. But again, no timers. Can't touch the keyboard after we hit play. Think outside the box, but inside the matrix. Go ahead.
Can we touch the mouse?
Your hands have to be in your pockets. You may not manipulate anything involving the computer after you hit the play button. It has to be a truly interesting / cool solution to this problem. Go ahead.
Couldn't we make it move and then when it collides with something change?
Kind of like that idea. Maybe we have this dude fall out of the sky, hit a platform. Every single time it hits the platform, something happens. Haven't we essentially built our own timer then?
Yeah.
Or the amount of time it happens is based on how quickly gravity causes it to fall? But we need to make it bounce, right? So let's start off by getting this guy bouncing. Okay?
That highly scientific term, bounciness.
All right, so we're going to create another actor. We're going to call this guy ground. Okay, there's our ground. We're going to make ground not movable. Oh, physics, yeah. Okay, so ground won't move. We're going to go into our scenes, gravity, and set the gravity on Y. We do just normal gravity, 9.8. So now we got normal gravity pushing down on Y. We will go back to answer. We'll make sure answer is movable. So you should fall out of the sky. Bounciness is set at 1. That should be all right, fine.
You'd want it checked.
Oh, he is movable. Yep. Okay.
Do we want to make his colliding shape not rectangular as well?
No, it should make a difference since we're hitting a square surface. It should bounce straight up. But I get what you're saying. You know, you don't want him to start flip-flopping. And since we don't have any gravity going the other directions and he's not tilting, I think he'll keep bouncing straight up and down. So now we'll add a rule. When the actor overlaps or collides, so when answer overlaps or collides with an actor of type ground, what are we going to do? For right now, we're just going to change our attribute answer to answer plus 1. That way we see answer changing each time, okay? So we'll change attribute. Answer's answer is equal to answer's answer plus 1. Okay? So, when we run this guy should fall out of the sky. When he hits the ground, answer should go up by 1. He'll bounce back up. Gravity will pop back down. He'll hit again. It should go to 2.
And he's gone.
We didn't set him to collide, did we?
We need to put a collide behavior for him to bounce off the ground. We definitely detected that he collided with it, right?
Yeah.
Definitely happened. But we need to actually make him collide. We need to actually make him react to the collision. So we'll go into answer. We'll put in our collide behavior. We'll say this guy collides with actor of type ground. And that'll make him bounce off. Maybe we got to turn the bounciness up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 or 100.
No, I think it should maybe 3. Should be plenty. There's really 2. Maybe 1 is neutral, 2 means bouncy, 0 means not bouncy. Maybe.
Maybe.
Gravity's still acting upon it, so you have to counteract gravity with the bounciness.
Yeah, you gotta turn.
So we have to turn
10.
bounciness up.
Oh, above 9.8?
Yep.
Yes. That's friction.
Use friction.
Well, I changed friction before, didn't I?
No.
No.
I'm pretty sure whatever I changed to 3.
No, you changed bounciness to 2.
Yeah, that was always.
Are you lying?
No.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Play it back after we're done.
Because I distinctly remember changing something to 3.
It went down to 2 after you clicked it.
Oh, like, okay, I got it. So I changed it to 3, but the max was 2.
Yeah.
So that,
Because it just did it again.
yeah. So that says that we can't change it to 9.8.
Lower friction. I don't know.
Is that friction is 0 maybe?
You make the density less.
Density bigger. So this guy's heavy and he'll bounce.
Yeah.
With that in mind, we probably don't even need to change friction. Let's not change too many variables at once.
Does friction even matter though?
It shouldn't matter in this
No.
case since we are in a vacuum. So I'll leave friction alone. We have bounciness set at more bouncy, even though I think, in fact, I want to set bounciness back to its normal. 1 bounciness should be
Plenty.
bouncy. We are bouncy. 0 would be not bouncy.
And it worked on the golf ball simulator.
Yeah. So I think we just want to make this guy heavier. Okay? Make him a lot heavier?
No. If you're making him heavier, he's going to
It's gonna
more
draw
gravity's
more.
going to act on him.
Because wouldn't gravity affect it more since it's heavier?
Yeah.
So
It's
you
true.
make him lighter.
Well, no, because he had a mass of 1 before. We need him to bounce.
What if you change the bounciness of the ground? Would that work?
Actually, I'm going to go the other direction. I think that's a true statement. They'll work with each other. But let me change the bounciness to 0. Maybe that turns bounciness on. No. So let's go in and edit the ground.
You want to set it back.
Yeah, we will. We're going to put the bounciness of the ground to 2. And we'll put the bounciness of our answer to 2. Now these guys should bounce off each other pretty good if this is the way it needs to work. No.
What if we turned gravity off and then just had it move towards the actor of ground?
Continue mounting though, even after.
I'll just pass
What?
by.
No, I see what he wants to do. He wants to.
No, because you keep going towards
You
ground.
still have the collide in there. It's still collide with it.
Yeah. he wants to turn gravity off here, but he wants to set our answer in motion heading downwards.
Which you can do.
Motion, linear velocity on y to 50. No, I mean 50 is not going to move all that fast.
You don't think?
No.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because remember, gravity is a cumulative force.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, wrong direction. Gotta go negative.
We'll see if-
Yeah, bounce real quick.
It what?
Did it bounce real quick?
Did it? We have the bounciness turned up too much?
No, I was kidding.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm going to actually switch the bounciness back to 1, though. And we will make the linear velocity on y to be negative 50. Why aren't you bouncing?
Because like you're constantly moving it down that much.
No, I agree. But the physics engine should allow it to automatically bounce. We shouldn't have to reverse the linear velocity on our own.
Yeah, because it's gonna bounce and then it should bounce just even if it bounces.
Yeah, we need gravity. Absolutely, gravity needs to be on. 100% positive. We need to have gravity.
If you think about it as well, if you drop a flat square completely flat onto a flat surface, it's not going to bounce.
If you throw it hard enough, it will.
But not if it lands.
Oh, now if it lands completely flat?
Yeah, which it is.
All right, so let's go back to your suggestion of changing the...
To round. I mean, it's worth a try.
Oh, sure. All right, so we're going to turn the linear velocity off.
There it is. Collision.
Collision shape, you want to change that to circle.
Interesting.
Let me turn the bounce up on our ground.
It's up at 2 already.
Is it? Then let's change our friction on our answer to 0.
Isn't friction rubbing though, so it wouldn't matter?
It shouldn't matter, but it's not bouncing now.
Might as well. No.
Why aren't you bouncing? Is it not coming from high enough?
Move it up.
Well, we'll just move gravity up. Gravity is now 50.
So it makes it go faster?
Yeah, maybe we're just not hitting hard enough.
That's gonna hurt.
Yep.
Hey, there it is.
All right, we need to turn the bounciness down.
Trampoline.
Because it's going to take a while for this thing to finish factorials, especially large factorials.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You put another actor for ground up top so it just bounces back and forth.
We could ping it between
Yeah.
the two.
Oh.
Actually, that would
start going really fast.
we could then by doing that. Actually, no, it's a really good. It's really high right now. That's actually a really good suggestion. We're going to make this guy smaller. We'll put him in the middle here. And the reason it's a really good suggestion is because we can use multiple instances of ground now.
What would you need to?
Well, he wants them to bounce off each other. But now these guys behave the same. So when it hits the top and bottom, it'll be
bounce.
updating attributes, so we'll be able to do our calculations.
So it'll go a lot faster too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're beating our timer here, and we're letting gravity do all the work.
Granted, we might want to turn gravity down just a little bit.
Why?
No.
So you
No,
can
that's-
see what the
that's
answer
scary.
is.
Yeah, you.
Let's do it. Just
That's
one
true.
test run.
For
of it.
fun, but
Yeah.
for fun, let's see
For,
it.
yeah, for a test run, let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
Wait, how come it's not
Seven.
changing?
Yeah, it might
It's too
actually it's
fast.
probably happening too quickly. So let's turn bounciness down.
That was fun.
You're gonna have to turn gravity down.
Nah, gravity's fine. Gravity's fine at 50. Man, imagine how obese I'd be if gravity was really 50 in real life. Man, I weigh 350 pounds as it is. I weigh like 1,500 pounds. That's awesome. What am I doing?
Oh, you could.
Bounciness. That's already set
Do
at
you want to
1.
change the collision shape back to a rectangle?
Yeah, I want to see that. I think this will still bounce as a rectangle.
Well, yeah, but will it be different?
Because when we had our golf ball, it still bounced.
Yeah. But what I want to do is I want to reduce the bounciness of ground to 0.
Not as much.
So one of these guys is bouncy.
The other isn't.
It's not going to reach.
Turn gravity up.
We do need to turn gravity up. Oh, it's
Eventually it'll keep going.
it's working.
Yeah, it'll get
It's getting there.
Almost.
Actually, it looks like it's
Going to about the same spot.
Yeah. Up and up and up.
Turn gravity up.
And
Jesus. You could go back to 1 on the ground.
I'll show you how to do this.
Oh boy.
Oh, come on.
Still,
Yeah.
what?
Oh, because
Because
the
you're dropping
bounciness
from
isn't
the-
allowing it, but to
Right.
bounce off as much.
Getting there though.
You can't. No.
Well, I can turn the ground's bounciness to 1. There we go. Boom.
Yeah, you're gonna have to set the ground bouncing.
Yeah, it's not bouncing hard enough off the ground. Well, it's not. This is equivalent to those little bouncy ball guys.
Yeah.
You throw it onto a floor, and we're going to say this floor is not bouncy.
Maybe go like half.
That reminds me. When I was a kid, there was some news story about some comedian. I guess it's not real, but who knows? A comedian made fun of it. It was somebody was skydiving, and their chute didn't open. Okay, so not good, right? So the thing was, this guy hit the ground, bounced twice, and lived. That was the story. So somebody was skydiving, chute did not open, hit the ground, bounced twice, and lived. Well, the comedian, his whole act was about, do you know how hard you have to hit the ground to bounce one time? So for him to bounce that second time, he's going to have to go high, right? Well, I mean, the first bounce has to take him back up really high. Even if that happened. Because we're going to say the bounciness of a human is like 0.3.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're gone. If you hit the ground hard enough to bounce high enough to bounce again,
You're done.
yeah, it's not good.
That's a lost cause.
Do you want to go after that?
They're cleaning up after you.
I seen it once in a movie. That was about it.
Yeah, that works.
All right, so we'll tighten those guys a little bit.
Oh. Oh, come on.
I think he hit it.
He did.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so we'll quickly at the beginning of next class update this to calculate factorial, and then we'll move on to a different problem. Okay? So we solved the homework solution, what, 4 different ways? Oh my gosh! No, we're still good. We're still good. We got this.
It's a gymnast.
Oh, boom, boom. It's like the lottery. This is our factorial in a box. We got to put sides on it just in case it gets out of control. All right.
This is gonna be uploaded later today.
I'll upload it right now.
Okay.
Or at least get it started uploading, and as soon as I get over to the golf simulator, I'll hook it up in the bar, and it'll keep.
Email like Wednesday when I wasn't here.
Did I get an email from you? Is that what you're asking? I think I got an email from Dr. Was it like an? I don't remember. I don't care.